The countdown has begun. The countdown to quite possibly one of the greatest historical moments in our lifetime. But will it be the fulfilling moment everyone expects? According to trending theories online, the historical eclipse happening on April 8, 2024 could very well usher in the end of everything as we know it. From the very path of the eclipse to the fact that the National Guard is now preparing for the event, theories have begun to go just a touch over the edge.
People are talking about the eclipse, but they're not talking about this. The sun and the moon are not aligned on April 8th. They are in Pisces. Right now, if you go to your Skyview app and you push forward to April 8th, plug it in, it will show you that the sun and the moon are in Pisces. They are not aligned. They are sitting beside each other, but they are not aligned.
Now mind you, the very fact that the National Guard has issued warnings and, according to their own official reports, are preparing for any number of catastrophic events that could take place on the 8th has caused some well-deserved concern. But could this just be in preparation for what they believe to be an extremely high turnout of visitors, expected to gather all along the path of the coming eclipse?
The Oklahoma National Guard will be in McCurtain County to help first responders as thousands plan to flock there to see the solar eclipse. Officials say McCurtain County expects up to 100,000 tourists. Now, members of the 63rd CST will be on standby and will respond to any hazmat emergency so that local first responders can focus on helping residents and tourists.
There is clearly no question the United States has seen its fair share of unexpected tragedies over the past few years. And with this in mind, the idea of the National Guard being prompted to be on high alert during the eclipse no longer seems as shocking. Now, the idea that this eclipse could be a sign or a warning from above would actually fit very well considering the changes happening right now in the heavens. And for that information, we turn to Michael from the Council of Time.
Somebody look up how many sunspots we have right now. Can somebody do that? We didn't make it, by the way. We didn't make it. It's very unfortunate. We did not make it. Look at the number. I want you guys to look at the date, 3/28, 2024. If you would, please. To help you guys out so you can get the right data here. I know I'm a quirky person, but I want you guys to see this to understand this. Don't you? Anybody know what's happening right now? We have a couple of problems. We do. Well, 327, 41. Number of sunspots, 41. 326, number of sunspots, 53. 325, number of sunspots, 63. 324, number of sunspots, 54. Sounds random, right? 328, number of sunspots, 40. We did not make it at all. Not one bit we didn't make it. Yesterday, you guys do know we had, I believe it was detected yesterday. I'm looking at, we had a detection, a few, not just one. We had a couple, actually. Quivers coming off the sun. Right? A couple of issues with the sun. We have some issues happening here that affect the earth. We're talking about the earth. Although it would be so nice if that weren't the case. The sun is about to change it. It's in its process of changing its polarity, you could say. But so is the earth for some odd reason. It is not fully known why the earth is doing the same thing. But it's happening. since in the last 20, 30 days, we've had some major electronic instabilities surrounding the Earth. They've not been stable at all. In fact, today they're doing emergency maneuvers on a few satellites. Today they are. Which means that's because the Earth's magnetic field was no longer protecting a certain area. And so they had to do a few maneuvers concerning the Earth. So I was hoping we'd make it through the 40 days for about 10 reasons without major incidents from the sun.
Look at this. This morning, at least 9 people are dead after a strong earthquake rocked Taiwan during morning rush hour. It's the island's largest earthquake in more than 25 years. Buildings collapsed and they're leaning. Here you go. Cars were crushed.
It was a calculated date of activity of the sun. And I was hopeful we'd get through the 40 days without activity on the sun. We didn't make it. In fact, right at the end of the 40-day mark, the sun started doing its wicked shimmy, right? So if you look at the solar charts, you'll begin to see solar activity picking up right there at the end of this 40-day mark, right? Now, you guys can accept or not accept what you want to hear, right? I normally, when I track things, right, I don't do the theoretical thing. You should know that by now. I don't spend time on theoretical things because we have very real issues we have to deal with. We have real issues we have to deal with. And so when dealing with dates, activity, we're looking for feedback, right? Hoping that no feedback comes, but looking for feedback. So it's more of a precision type of hunt we're doing, right? Based off a lot of data. In this case, the estimations and the hopeful estimations did not work out. The sun reacted to something that nobody's going to talk about. Right? Nobody's going to talk about what the sun reacted to. And believe it or not, the sun is very precise in what it does. It is. The sun is not doing what it's doing randomly. There's no way somebody can predict any solar activity outside of 30 days, 60 days. That just can't be done, right? Unless the sun is more precise than most people have figured out, okay? The sun is not some random ball of gas. It just does things, randomly. That's not what's happening here. And all of you guys, right, you guys who have been tracking some of my talks and quirky dates and things of that nature, you should know this by now, because you cannot predict. You cannot predict the activity of the sun that far out. Just can't do that, right? You can't do that. So in this case, the sun reacted to something, and I was really hoping it would not, because that would give us, a little more time at least. Well, let's just say a little more security of time. But it didn't. It did not. Which means, in comparison to what we have seen, we are about to see the sun for the first time, begin to erupt with some pretty high numbers, pretty high values, pretty high impacts, okay? Unfortunately, the interaction space between something nobody talks about out there and our sun, that interactive space is now beginning to react quite a bit with our sun, which is unfortunate, because what that means is, although there's some things that mainstream scientists don't understand, they have no grip on yet. There are some things in the sun that physics does not explain, like why the Earth, or why the sun, by the way, flips its poles. They don't understand that yet. They don't understand that process. Physics cannot answer that question, right? Can't do that. The interaction. This interaction, you're talking about some phenomenal forces that will continue to grow. The hope was we were still in the safe zone, right? Still outside this interactive area between something out there nobody talks about, that we were still outside of a specific zone that would not affect our sun in a big way. Right? These subtle and small changes that are happening in the sun, these reactive, predictive reactive phenomena on the sun, is a direct consequence of something that nobody talks about, and which means that this last period was a real telltale type period, right? Because it's almost as if it waited until this last mark, which was a lip above some pretty high charges that affects both Earth and the sun. We were hoping it would pass. If it did pass, if we had minimal or standard solar activity, that meant we would have at least, a couple more years to not endure some of the more massive changes in the Earth, right? Because we did not. There are a slew of predicted times that the sun is going to be quite volatile concerning the Earth. Most of those sunspots, by the way, see, as this solar cycle continues, just in case you don't know, as it continues, the sunspots gravitate towards the poles to the equator, right? They normally do that. They gravitate from the pole to the equator. This allows scientists to come up with their little butterfly charts and read those charts. You know how they track things. They like graphs. It's actually a good way to see over time some of the energy output of the sun, what these solar cycles are actually doing. In this case, things are becoming too predictive. Too predictive. The energy output from the sun is over the mark. Solar activity is well before the activity we're seeing now. We're not supposed to get until 2025, according to trending, according to recent activity of the sun. Which means the perturber out there, I'm going to call it the perturber out there, is closing in on our sun. As it closes in, right, those intervals get shorter and shorter and shorter, and everything becomes premature. Everything. All these things we've been looking at in Revelation. Every single last thing we've been seeing in Revelation, right, is not absent some of the volatility of the sun. Now we get to see the reality of these things.
This has been the Confidential Report. For even more stories like this one, make sure to subscribe to our channel today. And please show your support by clicking the like button on this video. For even more stories and news you deserve to know the truth about, follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you for watching the Confidential Report.